the community.
Hey, Equity Mate.
I just had a question.
Hey, Bryce, friend. I've got a question.
Answered.
Have you ever wondered what research tools we use to invest here at Equity Mates? Well, in this segment, we're going to go through what we think are the best. And Ren, this is a question that has come in from Luke.
Hey guys, I've just found you and I've just got a general question. What are some online tools that I could be using to start developing my education in what I call traditional finance? I come from the crypto space. That's how I've gotten into this. I'm used to drawdowns and I just see crypto as a long-term thing despite the volatility of it. But I'm also just wanting to get into the ASX a bit more, international shares. I'm not sure how I can connect it through CommSec. That's a brokerage I use, high fees, whatever. It's just convenient for me because it's connected to my bank. But that's ultimately what I'm looking for. I'm looking for online tools that are kind of like well used or well known for Australian investors that I can use to help kind of trade and invest in the ASX or Australian exchange, and then expanding out into America once the kind of volatility and everything there has kind of settled down. Cheers, guys.
Well, a big thank you to Luke for his question and recording it as a voice note. Remember, if you want to ask a question, the link is in the YouTube description or the show notes. We'd love it if you left it as a voice note. But Bryce, I think, Luke sort of was asking about tools and resources. He also mentioned brokers there. We've done plenty of content on brokers before, and I think these days the majority of brokers are giving you access to Australia and the US.
Yes.
So I think that's probably ground that we've trodden on a lot. Anything you want to say about brokers?
No. I mean, if you're just starting out, no. I think what we will do is link an episode from our Get Started Investing podcast in the show notes where we go through some of the best brokers that are currently available. How does that sound, Ren?
Sounds good. But then the question is, all right, well, I've got the ability to buy stocks in the US, stocks in Australia, all those ETFs as well, but how do I navigate this world and decide what to invest in? So I guess we've kind of got a toolkit or like some of the key resources that we use. So let's start. How do you keep up to date with what's happening in markets day to day? How do you keep your finger on the pulse?
It starts at 6 a.m. Ren, when I open the Equity Mates daily newsletter.
Oh, nice. Okay. Shameless plug.
Toot our own horn. Of course I have to if you're not signed up. But genuinely, that's a good place to start. But immediately after that, 3 newspapers for me: Wall Street Journal, New York Times, AFR.
Okay.
I like the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times first thing in the morning because it gets me up to date with what's going on broadly in America overnight.
Yep.
And then, of course, the AFR with everything that's going on here in Australia. So those are my sort of 3 finance-based newspapers.
Yep.
But luckily, we condense all of those into our newsletter.
Yeah, lucky. Yeah. Financial Times also great. Capital Brief in Australia, trying to unseat the AFR in the business section.
Yeah.
There's some good ones there. But yeah, I think for me, I agree. It's like read broadly, try and keep up to date with what's going on, and I guess discover companies that are interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
Then I guess the other way to find companies is, I guess, to try and take rather than like a news approach, like I guess a market approach. What's happening in markets, what companies are moving, and then like what, based on like the numbers they're reporting, who are reporting interesting numbers. And that gets to like, how do you screen the market?
So there are a couple of screeners that we use. The first is Ticker, TIKR. We'll put a link in the show notes to all of the platforms that we discuss. They're really good at, I guess, company information. You can get everything from their financials through to transcripts, but you can also screen global markets based on specific quantitative measures.
Yeah.
So we find that's really helpful. The second is Guru Focus. It's probably a little bit more detailed and provides a lot more data and information. It is both of these. It is paid. I think Ticker has a free option, but Guru Focus is just a little bit more comprehensive.
Yeah, I think it's more comprehensive and more expensive, so it just depends on which one you want, Ticker or Guru Focus. But yeah, I think if you want to start screening on companies that are oversold or have a good share price momentum, so you can start screening on, I guess, those market indicators to try and find companies that are interesting, or you can look at, companies that are growing revenue or growing profit and stuff like that. So I think screening the market would be the other way to start looking for opportunities. I guess the third way is like, what are other investors buying or selling? And there's a few resources to keep your finger on the pulse of what other investors are doing. I think Twitter remains a good source.
Yeah.
Highly recommend change your tab to following rather than for you. Then you get the tweets of people you've chosen to follow rather than what the algorithm is spitting out. We've spoken about Reddit before. There's a subreddit called Security Analysis where they every quarter aggregate all the investor letters that are publicly available. And that's always an interesting read to see what professional investors are looking at, what they're buying, what they're selling. And then, there are platforms like Livewire here in Australia where you can get a sense of how Australian investors are buying and selling. We should also give another shameless plug to the Equity Mates Facebook discussion group to hear how everyday Australians are approaching the market as well. So that's probably, I would say, idea generation is probably 3 key buckets. What's making news, what's moving markets, and what other people are talking about.
Yeah. So that's idea generation. I guess the next step down, Ren, is then going deep on individual companies and finding information that way.
Yeah. Well, how do you
Doing
turn
your
an
research.
idea into an
investment?
Yeah. And for me, like the first port of call, every investor we speak to on this podcast says the same thing, which is like start with the company's own information.
Yeah.
And so you go to the investor relations website and you can read annual reports, you can see shareholder presentations. But another really, underrated resource is the company's earnings calls. And there's a platform called Quarter that is essentially like a podcast app for companies' earnings calls. And you can listen to any earnings calls from almost any company around the world for free. You can also follow along with any slides that they've got.
Yeah, I mean, we've been lucky to witness the growth of this company. They started around a similar time to Equity Mates. They say they're now the best-in-class AI-powered research platform. But it's pretty impressive what they can do now with their transcripts. You can get sentiment, you can search based on company and it'll pull up every transcript that mentions that company.
You can also search based on topics. So like if you wanna see like tariffs, and then you can look at like the most recent earnings calls and they'll across different companies, they'll be like, here's where tariffs were mentioned.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So definitely check that out. Again, we'll put a link in the show notes to that.
So those are some resources to start forming a view on a company that you're researching. You can supplement it with other articles written about those companies. Valuation then becomes, is it a good time to buy? I think Guru Focus, we mentioned it earlier, they've got some good valuation tools if you want to start thinking about that, or you can obviously do it yourself. But really that's sort of the process that we go down if you want to find ideas and then research them. There are obviously some shortcuts you can take as well.
You can get just research reports. There are plenty of them out there, I guess created by fund managers, research houses or the like, where they'll just send you, Motley Fool is a good example, probably one of the more well-knowns. You pay a subscription and they'll send you stock ideas.
They still haven't found the next Amazon, but...
next Afterpay.
Oh, sorry. In America, they're advertising as next Amazon. Here it's the next Afterpay, yeah.
So one we speak about here on the show is Good Research. Luke Larrative at Seneca Financial Solutions. He sends a couple of stocks a month, but there are plenty others out there as well.
Yeah. And then when it comes to tracking your portfolio, there's really 2 platforms in Australia. There's ShareSite and there's Navexa.
Yeah.
You're a ShareSite operator?
I am, big time. Yeah, I think they do a very good job. Has all my portfolios in one, cash, everything. You can just put it all in there to get a good sense of how your total net worth is tracking and performing.
And then, so they're the main tools we use, but we wanted to do a final category, which is in keeping with the times, AI.
Yes.
How does AI fit into this? Are we using AI in our research process?
Definitely. I think obviously ChatGPT is very helpful. We've spoken on the show about Notebook, one of Google's options where you can throw in up to 50 documents and get it to, I guess, analyze those documents how you please. But one that I find pretty helpful, Ren, for stuff that we talk about on the show is Perplexity. It's essentially a glorified Google, but they do a really good job at, I guess, searching web and presenting information, factual information. It doesn't sort of hallucinate as much as some of the other LLMs.
So why do you like that over, say, a ChatGPT?
Because everything that Perplexity spits up will have a source next to it, whereas ChatGPT isn't at that stage yet of sourcing everything. It still does more true sort of large language model, I guess, responses, whereas Perplexity will only respond with what has been sourced from a third party.
Okay.
So for things like give me the performance of the S&P 500 every year for the last 30 years, it does a better job at that than ChatGPT at the moment.
Nice. Okay, so that is, I guess, a summary of the tools we use. Luke, I hope that answers your question. Plenty to go away and explore yourself. We included a lot of those links in our show notes, so you can check those out. But that'll do it for this episode of Equity Mates. Thanks for watching or listening. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you are so you don't miss another episode.
We'll be back in your ears tomorrow with an interview with Tony Crescenzi from PIMCO, one of the leading fund managers over in New York, to get an insight on all things fixed income. So stick around, but Ren, we'll pick it up next episode.
Sounds good.
I will say this about investing. Everything you do learn is cumulative. What I learned at 20 is useful.